The crux of award season has arrived. The 96th Annual Academy Awards will be presented this Sunday.
Good thing Greta's got director in the bag.
Oh, Ryan?
Yeah. What?
Jimmy Kimmel will return to host Hollywood's main event. This year's ceremony will start an hour earlier at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and the show hopes to wrap up 3.5 hours. As we look ahead to the Oscars, we're joined by Shana MacDonald, Associate Professor in Communication Arts at the University of Waterloo. Shana, we're expecting Oppenheimer to sweep this weekend. It's been kind of impressive to watch a 3-hour-long biopic with heavy dialogue become such a juggernaut this year. What do you think the appeal has been, and why is it doing so well this award season?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think in some ways, the director is a very well-known director, well-loved by all, has a really great track record for making strong films that take on very heady topics, but in a way that does end up being really entertaining, largely because his visuals are really, really strong and fantastic. I think that in particular, this movie is resonating in some ways because as a society, we're looking at the world around us, feeling increasingly uncertain. We think a lot about technologies and their impact on society. And this is talking exactly about that in a different historical moment. So I think there's resonances that are drawing audiences in because it allows them to think about the things that they're grappling with.
In recent years, we've also seen foreign films break into the main Oscar categories, and that's continuing this time around with Past Lives, The Zone of Interest, and Anatomy of a Fall. Why do you think Hollywood is opening itself up to more outside movies?
I mean, I think it's great to start by saying it's about time. I think we've always had this very rich history in other spaces of really strong movies and national cinemas all across the world that have their own flavor and their own appeal. And so it's great that we're finally recognizing that. I think that also with the rise of streaming services and the internet, we have access to global media in a way that we probably didn't 30 to 40 years ago. And so, you know, that opens up a lot of different fan bases and a lot of different opportunities to explore cinema outside of a kind of North American Hollywood context. And so I think the Oscars are responding to that reality.
Another big movie that took over this year was Barbie, and there was controversy over Greta Gerwig not being nominated in the director category. As big as it was at the box office and culturally, Barbie hasn't really succeeded that well critically. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. One of them is that its emergence on the scene had an outsized reaction, and it got taken up in so many different ways. There was a very large meme cultural response, so that drew in audiences and in some ways worked in their favor in terms of getting people to go see it. At the same time, it garnered a lot of conversations from a lot of different groups, and that complicated things. And I think in some ways took away from the film itself and made it about something else. And when that happens, then the film didn't get the critical attention that it probably deserves in that way, because there was a lot of media distractibility around it. I do think it's quite surprising that it didn't get stronger critical appraisal, because it is a very well-constructed movie and it's incredibly well-directed. And so I think that's a really missed opportunity on a lot of levels.
So what are some of your favorites nominated for Oscars this weekend?
Okay, so I'm Team Barbie all the way. I think that, again, Greta Gerwig is one of my favorite directors, and I think she deserves her due. She's made so many strong films in the past decade, and this is, in some ways, the pinnacle of that. It's likable, it's visually appealing, but it's also got such a strong message. It deals with the complexities of what it means to be a woman in a contemporary moment. It takes on the difficult kind of politics of that in very thoughtful, but also very enjoyable ways. And we don't often see enough of that. And so I'm Team Barbie. But outside of that, I also think it's important to recognize Poor Things as a really strong, well-constructed, thoughtful movie. So these are I think, examples of what's to come that I'm hopeful for and excited about.
Well, thanks so much for speaking with us, Shana, and enjoy watching the Oscars this weekend.
Thanks, you too.